Derrick Evans here, NMLS 155010. This is my video entitled Smarter Way to Buy a Home. Essentially a culmination of my 25 years of experience in the lending business and as someone who has bought and sold real estate as well. It's an insider's guide to owning your piece of America. This is not a commitment to lend, but I am a licensed loan officer and I can't answer your loan-related questions. So this is just, in general, some of the best practices and really an understanding of the process itself. Buying a home is a process, not like most of the things we buy. When we decide we want a toaster, we go to Target and we buy one. We look at the ones that are available and we take it. This is different. In this case, many people will enter the home buying process and not buy a home for various reasons, and that's okay. So know that the process itself is part of the process. How do we start this? Okay, let's talk about the steps. No, not those Spanish steps in Rome, but the actual steps of the process here. So first of all, you need to choose a strategy. What kind of strategy are you going to choose? We'll go through the different ones. Determine your capacity. What are you capable of doing as far as buying a home is concerned? Outline your priorities. What's important to you? I'll talk to you, explain to you how to think about that. Then selecting a realtor is obviously an important piece of the puzzle. Shopping for homes and writing offers. Now you might say, well, hey, where's the lender piece in there? Well, obviously, if you're watching this video, you're going to use me as your lender, but you could also, in the process of selecting a realtor, select a lender, and good luck to you out there. Now the escrow process will be final and we'll go through all these steps. So what's the goal? All right, we got to choose a strategy first. Well, what are the different strategies to choose from? Let's go through them. Short-term investment, long-term investment, long-term residence, and a flip. So let's back up. What's a short-term investment? Short-term investment would be, hey, I'm buying this home, but you know what? I'm getting stationed somewhere else in a few years, or I don't think I'll be in San Diego for that long, or wherever it is that I'm moving to, whatever it is that I'm coming from. We're licensed in many states across the country. Hey, I don't know how long I'll be here, but I know I want to own something. That's going to be a short-term investment. You know, if you plan to sell it within less than 10 years, I consider it a short-term investment. And when you think about real estate, you should be thinking about it in decades lengths, not by single year lengths, but in decades lengths. Because the real truth is, historically speaking, if you buy real estate and hold on to it, you will win. End of the story, period. And so short-term investments are where you can find some risk because perhaps prices won't be as high in 3 years as they are today. That's possible. But in 10 years, we know even from the Great Recession, when real estate actually crashed, it took less than 10 years for the average median home price in the country to come back to where it was. Less than 10 years. So if we have a 10-year time horizon, we're going to win. So short-term investment, be careful there. Long-term investment, this is what most people should be doing. Buying a home with the intent that you're never going to sell it unless you get the opportunity to sell it and buy two more. Trade one for two, then you have my blessing to sell your real estate. Otherwise, don't ever sell it unless you have to. Long-term investments are what most people are going to be buying real estate for, particularly for your primary residence, your forever home. That's what we would call that, a long-term investment. We don't know how long we're here, but we know we're going to be here for a long time because I just got a job here. Our kids are going to be going to these schools. We're going to be here for a long time. So what's the goal? Long-term residence would also be like a long-term investment. When we say long-term residence, the only difference there is that, hey, this is a home that we're going to stay in and live in forever. We'll call it the forever home. Whereas a long-term investment might be, well, hey, I'm going to buy this house. And maybe it's our starter home, or maybe it's our starter condo. We don't plan on selling it. We want to keep it forever, but we may not live in it forever. Okay, so I want to be very clear about that distinction for short-term investment versus a long-term investment versus a long-term residence. So with a long-term residence, a lot of things you can get away with, whereas with a long-term investment, you're going to be focused a little bit more on, hey, what are the rents in this area versus what our payment's going to be? What is the opportunity for appreciation? You're going to look at things that matter a lot more than on your long-term residence. You don't have to worry about that stuff as much, right? Because if you're going to own a home for 15 or 20 years or 25 years, no matter what it is, it's going to work. No matter what you do to it or want to do to it or how you want to handle it, you're going to be okay. On your long-term investment, though, you may need to make some changes. Flipping, not really what I help people do, but there are people who want to buy homes, go in, fix them up, and then sell them. That's definitely a short-term investment. We call that a hyper short-term investment. Is that what your strategy is? And the main key here is to just know which one of these is you, so you know how to proceed. And most of you will be long-term residents. Some of you will be long-term investment though. So those are the most, B and C will be the two most widely used. Okay, so now for determining capacity. How much house can you afford? Well, there's two questions that you're really asking there. How much can you qualify for? And how much can you really afford? So what can we really afford? This is a question that you should have and should talk about amongst yourselves. What is the payment that we really want to have? In other words, what is a payment that we really think is comfortable for us? Okay, and have that number in mind. Now, how much can we qualify for? These are very likely two different numbers. In fact, most of the time, I'm going to qualify you for a lot more than what you can afford. And this is the reason why I want you to be thinking about how much can I really afford, because that's an important thing for me, is to help you try to figure out how to stay inside your budget. But if I just tell you how much you qualify for, it may be too easy for you to get outside of your budget. Remember, buying real estate's a long-term commitment. It's not something that you want to do over the short haul, and you want to make decisions that are wise. So let's try to aim at your goal budget, at least to start. And if we need to go up from there, then you can, but let's do that incrementally. That's a smart way to handle it. There's a video for this topic, by the way, how to get the lowest possible mortgage rates. That is something that is a video that I have on my channel if you guys want to check that out. And that will help you figure out, when we're talking about what you're qualifying for, what we're talking about here is doing a pre-approval for a loan. And so talking to a loan officer, right? So there's a video for this, how to get the lowest possible mortgage rates. I want you to check that out. I want you to be careful out there. Be very careful out there. A lot of times people will be charging you tons. This is just one example. Look at all these points and fees on here. I charge zero of this. I don't charge any of these things, right? So ours would be zero, and this one's going to be almost $9,000+ in costs. I see that all the time. People getting charged thousands and thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for a loan, for a rate that I can beat and not charge a dime. So just be very careful out there. Ask about costs when you get your loan estimate. If you're not sure what to do, send it to me. Let me look at it and make sure you're in good shape. Okay, feel free to email that to me anytime, text me, whatever. I'm always happy. Even if it's in a state I'm not licensed in, I have no chance to earn the business, I still want to help make sure people get good deals. Okay, let me help you with that. Okay. Also be careful about APR rates. If an APR rate is way higher than a note rate, like over 1%, that's a red flag you need to ask about. And again, send it to me. Let me review it. It's too complicated to generalize, but I'll be able to review very quickly. Take me just a couple minutes to see what's going on and tell you what to do. And so if you see something like that, that's what the APR is actually good for. It's not good for much, to be honest with you, but it is good for this. If you have a wild difference between your note rate and your APR, something's amuck, and we need to figure out what it is. Okay, so now we're determining capacity, which means we're getting pre-approved, we're figuring it out. We're talking to a loan officer to figure out how much do we qualify for. One of the questions they're going to ask you is, what's your down payment? How much do you have down? And there's down payment and there's closing costs to consider, right? Sometimes you get the closing costs paid for by the seller, but the down payment's got to come from you. So unless you have a VA loan where you don't have to make a down payment, you have a zero down opportunity, you're going to have to make a down payment of at least 3.5%, with an FHA loan, or 5% with a conventional loan. There's some down payment assistance programs too, where you could get zero down or 1% down and things like that. But what are you comfortable with? This is a number. This is a question you should be able to answer. So I ask this question a lot. People are in varying ranges, obviously, for their answers. But if I say, hey, how much cash are you ready to spend on buying a home? What I'm asking is, how much do you have for down payment, closing costs, inspection, appraisal? I'm trying to back into the numbers for you. So think about this and get on the same page about this, how much you're willing to put into it. And then also think about, hey, are we going to need to make some sacrifices? Do we need to save more money down before we can buy something? Do we need to have more reserves? Will we need to make sacrifices? What kind of sacrifices can we make? If we're a couple and we're sitting here having this conversation, what are 2 monetary sacrifices you can make? What are 2 monetary sacrifices I can make? Maybe it's having coffee at home instead of going to Starbucks. Maybe it's just little things that allow you to say, okay, well, that'll save us $100 a month, so we're going to put an extra $100 a month into this. What can you do? What sacrifices can you make to help you get where you want to go? Because your home and your investment in real estate is more important, in my opinion, and some of those other little pleasures. And then it's important to make sure we're all on the same page. Are we all on the same page? Everyone who's buying this house, if it's you and a spouse, or you and a spouse and a cosigner, or whatever, are we all on the same page about what's going on and what's expected? And I will do my best if I'm involved to help make sure that that's the case. So determining your capacity is just figuring out how much do we have down? How much do we qualify for? What do we need to do to get to where we want to be? And if we're not already where we want to be, what steps do we need to take in order to get there? That's what this stage is all about. Okay. Now, you want to take some time to outline your priorities. So this is just as simple as, hey, what do we need? What do we have to have in order to in our home? What's an absolute must? We need a yard for the dog. We need, a third bedroom. What are those things that you absolutely have to have? So you need to have a needs list. Okay, then you have a want list. Hey, what we'd really like is a cheap HOA that has a pool and a dog run and this. What would be great for us? You want to know what these things are. It's easy to lose track of those things when you go and you start looking at properties. Your brain will get scrambled because you'll look at 6 or 7 properties in a day and you'll forget about the first and second one. Unless you make notes, unless you think I'm going to tell you in this video, you'll forget. So write things down that are important to you. What do we need? What do we want? Create a wish list. Hey, here's things that we aren't even expecting to be able to get, but we'd be over the moon if we were able to get this wish, some of these things on our wish list. Maybe it's this location or, something that's far out there, but have those things written down so that you can remember and that you can quickly make decisions about things like that as they come up. What are some locations that work? Are there locations that don't work? Well, these are things that you want to have already determined, if possible. That will help your realtor make your search, and that'll help you make decisions as well. Because if you don't have any locations, you might say, hey, we're open to anywhere. Someone may pick a location that you're unfamiliar with, and you may love the house and fall in love with the house and buy it, and then realize a year later, we hate the location. That's possible, right? So if you're unsure about certain locations, then you have to really investigate them. Drive out there, at the time that you're going to be driving to work, drive out there at night. You have to do some additional due diligence to make sure that you're good with that location. Yeah, the dreaded buyer triangle. This is what can come up, okay? So you have the house you want, the location you want, and then you have where you are right now. And many times these do not intersect, meaning you can't get the house you want and the location you want right now. You may be able to get the house you want, not in the location you want. You may be able to get the location you want, not the house you want. But it's hard to get both of those things right now all the time. So which is more important? The right home or the right location? That's an important thing to discuss and try to dial in so that you can be fully ready for that conundrum. It's coming for most people. Now, selecting a realtor. This is something that's very difficult to do because how do you select a realtor? You just go with our gut. What questions do we ask? How do we know which the right answers for those questions? Well, referrals are best, of course. If you can get a referral from someone someone that they've used in the past, make sure you ask them, hey, can you refer me? Who'd you buy your house with? Oh, this person. Okay, great. If you're just saying, hey, do you know a realtor? Someone might just refer you their friend. They have no idea. They've never done a transaction with them. They don't know if they're professional. They don't know if they're actually good at their job. Work with someone who's actually transacted with somebody. And find out if you have similar goals. Do you have similar goals that they had? If someone says, hey, I'm referring you my realtor, and they sold a house in La Jolla, but you're trying to buy a house in Chula Vista, is that same agent going to be, the right fit? It may be, or they may not be. But if you have similar goals, hey, my friend bought a home in this neighborhood, and we also want to buy a home in this neighborhood, and that they had a good experience with the realtor, that's a perfect referral. That's a perfect referral. So referrals are always best. And by the way, realtor friends are okay. It's totally okay to use your friends. It's totally okay to use other people's friends. Just make sure there's more merit. There's more to it than just, hey, this is my friend and they have a license. Make sure you investigate the transactions that they've completed. You can do this by looking them up on Zillow and see how many homes they've sold, how many homes they've been on the buy side, sell side of the last 12 months. That'll give you a good idea of the areas they're working and how much business they're doing. I made an entire video on this too, by the way, selecting a realtor, if you want to check my my YouTube channel. And that's universal across the board, all across the country. That'll work. Okay, now we're at the point of shopping for homes. This is where it starts to get fun, right? We're going around, we're touring, we're imagining what could be ours. Start online. just so you can learn the market. What do things cost? How quickly are they getting snatched up? Are things sitting? Are prices being reduced because things are sitting? Start online and get a feel for the market. And don't go look unless you're ready to pull the trigger. I always say that because a lot of times people say, well, we're not looking to buy yet. And then they go and they look at a home and they fall in love. And now they're trying to backtrack into an pre-approval, and they're behind, and someone gets the house in front of them. And it can be very disappointing and discouraging when that happens. So I always say, don't go look unless you're ready to pull the trigger. When I say go physically look online all you want. Totally fine. But when you go start looking at houses, just know there's a good chance, especially if you have no intention of buying something, you're going to fall in love with something. Just the Murphy's Law. Prepare a list of questions. Now, this would be things that are important to you, like, hey, does this house have AC? It may sound like a silly question, but if that's important to you, and I think it should be, that's a question you want to ask, because not every house has AC. They don't have them. So prepare a list of questions, things that are important to you about the home. Does this home have solar? Does it have high energy? Does it have energy efficient appliances? Is it a one owner? Has anyone died in this house? Whatever question is important to you, make sure you have those ready, and then take notes. Now, there's a good chance these days they don't do it like they used to because everything's so digital. But I would ask your realtor to print out the listing for each home that you're going to go look at. And then I would bring a clipboard and take notes right on that piece of paper for each one. Because if you go look at more than 2 or 3 houses, you'll forget so many things. You'll forget so much. So take notes, and then when you go back over your notes and you're looking at your notes, have the properties pulled up on your computer or on your TV at home and be looking through the property as you're going through your notes. That's the best way to recap showings so that you fully get the most out of the experience of taking the time to go look at those homes. Otherwise, you'll forget stuff. Trust me. And I always say this too, and it's true. You will know. When a property is the right one, you'll know because you want it. It's going to feel like home, and you're going to want it. Now, if you find yourself trying to talk your way into a property, or trying to convince yourself that you should like a property and you don't, that's not the one. You will know. Trust me on that one. All right, now it's time to write offers. So most important rule here, listen to your agent. What you do with your agent is you tell them what you want to accomplish, and then let them do what they believe is best to get you there. So you may say, well, we don't want to spend more than this much. So this would be our max offer. Well, don't necessarily start there, right? They may say, hey, listen, there's going to be multiple offers, so we don't want to start at our best offer, because we'll get countered and they'll use our offer to get other offers higher. Let's start a little lower than that, and then we'll put when we get our counter, we'll put in your max. Listen to your agent, follow their lead. It's also possible you may have to lose 1 or 2 homes. It happens a lot of times, especially with first-time buyers. You're going to lose 1 or 2. What I mean by that is you're writing offers, you're in contention, and then someone else wins, and you don't get it. Be prepared mentally for this, because it can be difficult to go through that, but it's an important learning experience, and it's an important part of the process. Something to keep in mind, bigger earnest money deposit actually speaks volumes. So if you have, and your earnest money deposit is something that's only at risk should things go sideways and if you don't perform as you agreed in the contract. So as long as you plan on, performing as you agreed in the contract, your EMD is not at risk. But if you put more down, instead of putting a $5,000 EMD, you put 15 or 20. That does stand out to sellers like, wow, they're willing to put that much down. That means they're really going to abide by this contract. They're saying, hey, we have no intention of getting out of this. We want this place. And so that is one little hack that can sometimes get you a deal. Use a cover letter if possible. Some MLSs, some areas around the country, they don't allow it anymore. And so if you can't use a cover letter in your area, that's okay. If you can, you should. It's just something that summarizes you, your family, what you're trying to do, how much you love their home. It's a love letter to try to get the house, get the seller to pick you, basically. And remember, when you're writing your first offer, even after your offer's been accepted, it's just the beginning of the negotiations. There's still plenty of time later to renegotiate should you find things in the inspection or in the appraisal or in a termite report that you don't like and you want to have renegotiated. You can definitely do that. So just keep that in mind. Negotiations are not complete, and there's still time to make adjustments as needed. All right, the escrow process. So you got your due diligence period, which is outlined in your contract. This is the time frames that you offer. Say, hey, we'll have our inspection done within 7 days. We'll have our loan contingency done within 10 days. We'll have our appraisal back within 12 days. Whatever those days are, that's your due diligence period. Have anyone that you want to come out there, roofers, inspectors, whoever you think needs to come out, septic guys, well tests, anything you want to make sure of on the home, that's the time to do it. Hire a good inspector. Hire a professional inspector. Hire an inspector company, not an individual. Sorry, I've just seen too many bad things from the rando inspectors. Hire a company that has, equipment they're going to use to check for mold, moisture, and all that stuff. Renegotiate if you need to. Look, if you get a bad inspection report, people who are savvy and experienced in real estate, they love getting bad inspection reports because it allows them to renegotiate and tear the seller apart with evidence. So don't consider that to necessarily be something that's a deal killer. Use it to renegotiate hardcore. And if they don't want to do it, then you can cancel. So always back out if it feels wrong. Now, there's a difference between it feeling wrong and you being nervous about it. If it feels wrong, your gut will be telling you you need to get out of this deal. If you're nervous about it, you're going to be searching for the reason to get out. You're going to be going, well, maybe this is bad, or maybe that's bad, or maybe that's going to go bad, or maybe that means you're just nervous. That's normal. It happens every time. No matter how many properties you buy, I can tell you for sure, you're always going to feel that way. You're always going to have buyer's remorse. But if it feels wrong in your gut, and it's not anything you're doing in your mind, but your gut is telling you we shouldn't be doing this, then back out. Keep in mind you need some cushion for your move. Okay, right? Like, so whether you're hiring movers or whether you have some different expenses associated with moving in, buying new furniture, just keep that in mind as far as a cushion. And I'm going to give you an important tip here too. So your first payment will be due later than you think. So if you're writing offers on homes in March and you get an offer accepted, then you're most likely going to close in April. Well, your first payment, if you close in April, is going to be June 1st. Okay, if you close in May, it would be July 1st. If you close in June, it'll be August 1st. You see how that works? So you have a little bit of delta there where if you time where you are now to when you're moving in, well, you could get you have a month where you're not paying rent on your old place or paying a mortgage. And you can use those extra funds to help buy furniture and things like that. So just keep in mind the timeline for this escrow process and when that first payment is going to be due.
All right, let's get to some reminders from today. So first and foremost, capacity and budget. These are crucial to understand and to follow through the process. So know your capacity, know what your budget is, and know that you're staying in that window somewhere throughout the entire process of buying a home. Also, choosing a realtor could be a big difference maker in your outcome. Whether you have a great experience or a whole home experience, could depend on that a lot. So follow those tips to choose a good realtor and watch that video. Remember, you're protected up to a point. Do not be afraid to back out if things don't feel right. Remember, trust your gut. If your gut's saying this isn't for us, listen to that. You should never have to talk yourself into or be talked into buying a home. It should be something you're very, very excited about whenever you choose one, okay? As far as finding out more for this video, what are people doing to win in the home buying process? Well, people who are winning are more prepared. Time and preparation is time well spent, whether that's time and preparation for your pre-approval or doing your due diligence throughout the process. Be more prepared. Be as prepared as you can be. I will help you as much as possible if you're working with me. They're less emotional. So most bad decisions I've ever seen were made with emotion at the forefront. Avoid that. Avoid that. That's a big one. It's hard to do because we're emotional homebuyers as human beings. We are. It's an emotional thing for us. Where our baby's going to sleep at night. Like, that's a big deal. The more you can be pragmatic about it, the better. I also work with a great team. Your realtor matters. Your lender matters. Look, I know if you're working with me as a lender, then your lender's great. I know that because I care and I'm going to work hard to make sure you get your goals accomplished any way possible. Not all lenders are like that. Some people it's just a job. Some people actually have bad intentions. Same thing with realtors. A realtor might even be a more important selection because they're ultimately going to be negotiating the deal for you. They're going to determine whether you get an acceptance or not. I'll crush it once we do, but we need to get there first. So the realtor is really important. Hopefully the tips on finding a realtor in that video I made for you will be helpful on that. If you have questions though, anytime, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. I'll be here for you. I'll do anything I can to help, even if you're in a market where I'm not licensed and I can't actually quote you a loan. I can review your loan documents with you and tell you the questions you should be asking and how you should be going about renegotiating if that's the case. All right, so Hopefully this has been helpful. I'll be here when you need me, and I'll see you soon.